Why do hardworking, well-educated people often struggle financially? This book argues that the problem isn't effort, it's mindset. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki is not a traditional personal finance guide. It is a challenge to conventional beliefs about money, work, and education. Through the contrast between his two fathers, one academically successful but financially constrained, the other a savvy entrepreneur, Kiyosaki reframes how wealth is built. The book's core idea is simple. The rich don't work for money. They make money work for them. Assets versus liabilities. Kiyosaki's most famous lesson is redefining assets and liabilities. Assets put money into your pocket, liabilities take money out. Many things people consider assets, homes, cars, can actually be liabilities if they drain cash flow. Wealthy individuals focus on acquiring income-producing assets. Schools don't teach money. Kiyosaki criticizes formal education for failing to teach financial literacy. Good grades and stable jobs do not guarantee financial security. Understanding cash flow matters more than earning a high salary. Escaping the rat race. Most people work to pay bills, fear losing income, and increase spending as earnings rise, creating a cycle Kiyosaki calls the rat race. Financial freedom comes from breaking this cycle by building passive income streams. Financial intelligence wealth is built through financial intelligence, which includes accounting literacy, investment understanding, market awareness, legal and tax knowledge. These skills are developed through action, not theory. Freedom over security. Kiyosaki does not glorify money itself. He emphasizes freedom, the ability to choose how you live. Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches that avoiding risk entirely often leads to lifelong dependency, while learning to manage risk opens the door to independence. Next, we'll explore how asset-based thinking applies to investing, entrepreneurship, and long-term financial planning.
You've probably heard of it. Heck, you've probably seen it on a bookshelf somewhere. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's one of those books that promises to unlock the secrets of the wealthy, to give you a whole new mindset that can turn you into a money-making machine. But here's the big question. Is it actually a blueprint for financial freedom, or is it something a lot more dangerous? So what's the real story here? Let's unpack the phenomenon that is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. First, you just have to wrap your head around the sheer scale of this thing. We're not talking about a moderately successful book. We're talking about over 26 million copies sold worldwide. This thing is a legit cultural phenomenon. It has completely changed the way millions and millions of people think about their jobs, their money, and their future.
But for every superfan, there's a critic who absolutely despises this book, and they don't pull any punches. Financial journalist John T. Reed says it's full of wrong, bad, and even dangerous advice with basically no good advice. So how does that happen? How could one book be a life-changing Bible for some and a dangerous myth for others? Well, that's the puzzle we're going to piece together today.
So here's the game plan. We're going to start by digging into the big, mindset-shifting ideas that made this book an absolute blockbuster. But then, we're going to put those ideas under the microscope and look at the serious controversies that have made some people call the entire Rich Dad empire a total house of cards.
The book's magic really kicks off with a simple but super powerful story. Robert Kiyosaki sets up these two father figures with completely opposite views on money. First, you have his poor dad, his actual father. Super educated, followed all the rules, go to school, get a good job, you know the drill. Then you have his rich dad, his friend's father, an entrepreneur who taught him that the rich are playing a totally different game.
So what exactly is this Rich Dad mindset that got everybody so excited? Let's break down the core ideas that really hooked people and turn this into a global sensation.
It all starts with Kiyosaki completely redefining one simple word: asset. Now forget whatever you learned in business class. According to Rich Dad, an asset is just something that puts money into your pocket, period. Think rental income, stock dividends, a business that pays you while you sleep, anything that generates positive cash flow.
And of course, the opposite of that is a liability. And again, it's brutally simple. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Your car payment, your credit card debt, anything that's constantly draining your bank account every single month.
And this is where things get really controversial for a lot of people. Your house, your home. See, Poor Dad thought his house was his biggest asset. But Rich Dad? Nope. He said it was a liability, because every single month money flows out of your pocket for the mortgage, the taxes, the upkeep. For so many readers, this one single idea just completely flipped their financial world upside down.
From there, Kiyosaki introduces what he calls the cash flow quadrant. The idea is that we all earn our money in one of four ways. E is for employee, S is for self-employed, B is for business owner, and I is for investor. The whole point, his big message, is that real freedom comes from moving from the left side of this quadrant, where you work for money, to the right side, where you own systems and your money works for you.
Okay, so how do you actually make that leap? Kiyosaki says you need to build up your financial IQ. And no, he's not talking about getting another fancy degree. He's talking about street smarts, really understanding accounting, the basics of investing, how supply and demand works, and, crucially, the laws around taxes and corporations that the rich use to their advantage.
All right, so those are the big, powerful, motivating ideas. They sound great, right? But now we have to look at the other side of the coin. The side that has critics calling the book, and the man himself, a complete and total fraud. The first, and maybe the biggest, bombshell is aimed right at the heart of the book. The story of Rich Dad himself. You see, tons of journalists and investigators have dug into this, and they've found zero evidence that this mentor ever actually existed. This leads to the massive accusation that the entire foundation of the book is just a made-up story designed to sell copy.
And then you get to the actual advice in the book. And wow, take a look at this quote that critics always point to. Kiyosaki straight up suggests using your rich friends to get inside stock tips. Now, not only is that ethically sketchy, but it sounds an awful lot like he's advocating for insider trading, which, last I checked, is super illegal. Another huge problem people have is that the book is all sizzle and no steak. It's full of these amazing motivational slogans like, make money work for you, but it's incredibly light on the how. Critics say it's amorphous, like one of those ink blot tests. It lets people project their own get-rich-quick dreams onto it without giving them any real concrete steps to follow.
The book also has this very famous anti-education, anti-job stance. The character of Poor Dad, with his PhD and his secure job, is constantly painted as the financial fool. Meanwhile, Rich Dad, who learned from the school of hard knocks, is hailed as the genius.
But here's the thing. The actual data tells a very, very different story. Look at these numbers. The higher your level of education, the higher your median earnings, and the lower your chances of being unemployed. I mean, these stats directly contradict the book's whole narrative that formal education is a bad path if you want to be wealthy.
And finally, you have to look at Kiyosaki's own track record. Many critics claim his first big success didn't come from brilliant investments, but from selling his books through multi-level marketing companies. On top of that, one of his main companies filed for bankruptcy back in 2012. And maybe the most shocking thing of all, in early 2024, he went public saying he was over $1 billion in debt. For critics, these facts just scream red flag. So, with all that baggage, where does that leave us? What is the book's actual legacy? Is there anything of value left once you strip away the made-up stories and the questionable advice?
So let's land the plane. What's the final verdict here? Well, on the one hand, you can't ignore the good. The book lit a fire under millions of people to even think about their finances. It introduced huge concepts like passive income and escaping the rat race. But the bad is really bad. The advice is vague and sometimes dangerous, the main story is probably fake, and it pushes an anti-education message that just doesn't hold up to reality. So maybe this is the real takeaway. The book's true value isn't as a step-by-step guide. It's a catalyst. It's a motivational speech that gets you fired up about your financial future. And that's powerful, but it's also dangerous if you stop there. Think of it this way. It's a fantastic first book to read on your financial journey, but it would be a catastrophic last one. Because underneath all the controversy, there are ideas like this one that are just plain true and powerful. This goal of taking the money you work for and turning it into money that works for you, that's a core principle of building wealth that almost any financial expert would agree with. And I think ultimately Rich Dad, Poor Dad forces us to ask ourselves a really important question. When it comes to our money, our future, our lives, is the real secret finding one guru and blindly following their advice? Or is it about taking inspiration wherever you find it, but then committing to the hard work of educating yourself and learning how to think for yourself?